It's our quarterly testing of the broadcast. If you could click on the link and see if you see me, and more importantly, it's the sound. Can you hear me on your computer speakers? Is the sound good? You what? Okay, sounds good. Okay. All right, thanks, Ben. Where are you up? With an MBA class or? You're great. How about you? Yeah. You settling in? You've been there about a year now at the new job, right?
Yeah, right on the year.
All right. So when we go to presenter view, what it shows you is that's the current slide and that's the next slide.
Okay,
You get a preview,
okay, cool.
and you can use enter, down, any one of these keys will flip through the slides.
So all of these.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And here are your slides.
Okay, that one.
So anyway, you can flip through and
Okay.
you can use the up arrow or down or right
Okay.
moves forward, up or left moves back.
Okay.
So I would invite you to flip through that if you like.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We've got a good turnout tonight. We're expecting over 80.
Great.
What do you think having promoting you as a guest speaker?
I doubt that. I doubt
What are
that.
you going to put on that big? What's going to happen to that? Armor? A lot of people don't know.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, that's all your slides.
How's it going? Good. Yes.
Don't let them spread out too much. That's not enough cheese out for all those papers.
are you more complicated or not? Same with you, yeah. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yep. Cool. Yeah, just kind of, I just kind of. Okay. Sorry, we don't have more time to give you. Oh, no, that's fine.
That university question?
I don't know. Yeah.
Questions, you're all set with them?
I think I'm all set. So,
What, the
back
size
to-
ones? Yeah, you just get logged in the radio session, I'll go and send it every, you tell me, send it now, send it when you're speaking, send it. Yeah, send it on my stuff. Yes. That computer can be. Got a couple of pairs here today? have relatives there. I spent 6 weeks.
That's easy. Good evening, everyone. At this moment, I've been asked by Mr. Patke to lead us in grace, following which we'll get in line over here and dine. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord, amen. God bless the cook. Alphonse.
All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to try to get started. We have a busy agenda tonight. Any new members, first-time members? Yes, sir.
Bill Keeling, class of 70.
Bill, is it Bill or Phil?
Bill.
Bill Keeling, class of 70. Welcome. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Class of 2001.
Good for you, a younger member. Is that it? All right, well, welcome. We've already signed you up for a couple positions for the Cash Bow volunteer list, and which is, I'm actually not joking. First, I don't know if you remember from our Christmas breakfast meeting, we had a moment of prayer for Glenn, I've forgotten his name, Glenn Kemper, sorry, who was having surgery, I believe it was kidney surgery. I'm happy to report that Glenn is doing well, and in fact, I think he's actually here tonight. Glenn, welcome back. Exactly. We're glad you're back with us, Glenn. Okay, we have a busy spring coming up, the busiest spring I can remember in a long time here, because in addition to Cash Bow, which is only a month or so away, let's say, 4 weeks away, we have the Bicentennial Mass and Celebration, which is 2 weeks after Cash Bow, both of which are huge events. And so you'll hear more about this later from different speakers, but we're going to need the help of this body for volunteer work for both Cash Bow and especially, I think, the Bicentennial Celebration. And you're going to hear more about that later. But both of those events, certainly Cash Bow is going to be the biggest and best Cash Bow ever. And the Bicentennial Mass and Celebration is something that's going to, I don't know if the school will have ever seen anything as big as it in terms of numbers of people and events. So there's a lot going on, and hopefully this board has a lot of members. Hopefully we can get a lot of volunteers from this group to help out, because we're going to need it. So I'm going to introduce our guest speaker tonight. Our guest speaker is Brooks Goedeker from the class of 1998. Since last April, Brooks has been executive director of the, I have a new pair of glasses, so I'm going to have trouble reading. Executive director of the Midtown Redevelopment Corporation, a nonprofit organization affiliated with St. Louis University, whose goal is to continue the revitalization of the Midtown area. Prior to joining Midtown, Brooks was the executive director of the Park Central Redevelopment Corp., a nonprofit that promoted development in the city's central corridor, including the Grove and the Central West End. In that role, Brooks oversaw $2.2 billion in construction projects, nearly half of all construction in the city of St. Louis between 2013 and 2017. He's also worked with the Wash U Medical Center Redevelopment Corporation, where he played a role in the revitalization of the area right across Kings Highway from SLUH, so east of SLUH, which I don't know, in my years, we're kind of afraid to go over there, but it's booming, and including the Grove area. He has extensive experience in community development, leading initiatives to bring social services and economic development to low-income and depressed urban areas. His career has included projects across the country, including Philadelphia, Memphis, and Minneapolis. He has an undergraduate degree from Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois, master's in social work from St. Louis University, and a master's in nonprofit management from Washington University. So please welcome Brooks Goedeker from the class of '98. Welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you for having me. Backer Memorial Gymnasium looks a lot different. I'm going to tell a quick story. So my senior year, 1997 and 1998, I was one of 8 students, only 8 students that signed up for gym class that year. Everybody else was doing weight class, and you can tell I did not fit in the weight room. So I took gym class, and it was Joe Mimlitz was our gym teacher. And that year, Joe Mimlitz was actually the DeBerg varsity basketball coach. So if anybody remembers that. And so Joe was at DeBerg High School, and DeBerg did not have a stellar basketball program, that's for sure. In fact, we had 8 students in our gym class, and they had 7 students on their basketball team. And every day for gym class, Joe would go ahead and run his plays that he was going to do for practice with them. And then when they had games, he would go ahead and run us and do, the actual game log activities for that night. Happy to report, DeBerg, who won 4 games the previous year, went 22-4 that year. And it was the first time that they won the Archdiocesan division since 1972. They won that year. So I would have never made the basketball team at SLUH High, that's for sure, but I felt like I actually had a part in DeBerg's basketball team that year. So this was right here, Backer. So I was born in the city of St. Louis, raised in the city of St. Louis, and probably about the age of 12 or 13, I started realizing that the city's got some issues. And, they're just identifiable issues, they're solvable issues, but it's something like I would like to help out with. So I kind of knew early on that that's something that I wanted to do. So when I went to college, and this is really coming here, it's going to SLUH High for the greater glory of God, creating men for others, and then went on to college. And when I came back from college each summer, I said, I want to do some kind of job that gives back to the city and that I want to be a part of it. So I actually went and worked for the YMCA, and there was a summer camp in the Jefferson Elementary neighborhood. So it's Murphy Park area, and that's a Jefferson Elementary School just north of downtown. And they had McCormick Barron was doing a big mixed income development project there at that time. It was an old public housing development that they were tearing down and doing new homes and that around there. And it was just exciting. I didn't know that something like this was possible as an 18, 19-year-old kid. So worked there at the school for 2 summers and then went back to my college and said, is there any way I could get a grant, a fellowship to study what's going on in this community here and possibly replicate it, in other neighborhoods throughout the city? So I got that grant my junior and senior year when I came back from the summer. And I was actually the assistant principal for the summer school at Jefferson Elementary. And what I found out was here is this practice of really men for others that was happening in this community. So this woman here, Dr. Ann Meese is her name. She was a 60-year-old woman. They did a nationwide search for a new principal at the school. And the woman who was a principal for 30 years in Cape Girardeau said, I'm getting to the end of my career. I'd like to give back somehow. So I'd love to be this principal in this, underdeserved, neighborhood here. And in fact, I'd love to live in the community and be here 24/7. So here's this 6'1" white woman who decides that she's going to go ahead and move in to this all-black neighborhood right across from the school. Had an apartment there for her. And she became this dynamic person. If Johnny was missing school that day, she went to Johnny's home and to see what was going on. If, Robert was out throwing rocks on a Saturday in the middle of the street, she went over and said, Robert, why are you doing that? She really practiced living, working in the community there, and she had great respect from the community because of that. So here's a story that was done in the Post-Dispatch back at that time in 2000. Richard Barron, the CEO of McCormick Barron, followed that. Here it is, talking about the community. It was a 4-part series about the community there. And then I found out that McCormick Barron, this group that traveled around the country and did this type of development all over the country, hired social workers to work with them, to do the community engagement, to bring in, not just do housing, but bring in businesses and work with the schools and parks and social and human service programs and all of that. So this woman, Lisa Engstrich, was the head of that department there of social workers. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I can go and become a social worker and possibly work with them. So that's what I did. I came back to St. Louis University in 2002 to get my master's in social work. And there I started doing internships with McCormick Barron. And McCormick Barron just happened to be leading for the Forest Park Southeast. So from 1996, and they helped lead a bunch of community photo. There's WashU Medical Center, BJC Hospital, WashU School of Medicine to the north there, and then to the south is here's this neighborhood. And the reason why WashU Medical Center ended up going to McCormick Barron and saying, can you help us out with this community, is actually in the early 1990s, a 10-year-old boy was killed in a drive-by shooting incident. And it wasn't any normal drive-by shooting incident. It was a gang member seeing his rival gang driving down the street, coming after him, picked up this 10-year-old boy and used him as a human shield for a drive-by shooting incident. Crazy stuff happening in this neighborhood at that time. So actually, WashU Medical Center the following week issued a memo to all of their employees saying, do not drive through this neighborhood. So once that memo came out and that, it was, we have to, the medical center has to do something for this neighborhood just to the south of them. So they began investing millions of dollars in the neighborhood. This is what the neighborhood looked like in the 1950s. Very viable neighborhood. Manchester was like the mall of today. You wanted to go to any kind of restaurant, any clothing store, pet shop, athletic store, you could find it here. One of the first Schnucks was here, Woolworth, whatever it was, movie theater was all on Manchester Avenue. This is where everybody came to do their shopping. Well, when I drove in as an intern for the first time in 2002, this is what it looked like. 100 different parcels in the Grove on Manchester Avenue, and only 6 had storefronts to them. So 6 out of 100 actually had storefronts. All of the other buildings were mostly vacant. You'd walk into them, you'd fall to the basements of the, the buildings, no staircases, no floors, any of that, just shells of buildings here. I, again, went to SLUH High, grew up in the city my whole life, was never on this street until 2002, until I was 22 years old. Took the Kings Highway bus most days going home, never was on this street. So it was, when I drove down here for my internship, I literally said to myself, where the hell am I? Where am I going here? Is this really what I want, where I want to be working? So the early years, WashU Medical Center started doing millions of dollars of social and human service programs here in the neighborhood. So they said, we're going to go ahead, this politically correct approach, we're going to go ahead and lift up the community together. We're going to help them. This is a jobs program, computer GED programs, home repair programs, lots of senior citizen programs, youth programs. This is the teen program there. Built a $6 million community center. Here's McCormick House at Kings Highway in Manchester, a senior citizen facility. So all of this, millions of dollars dumped in from 1996 to really about 2003. And what ended up happening, what WashU ended up finding out was once somebody got a job, once somebody got training, they said, thank you, WashU. Now I'm getting the hell out of this neighborhood. And so WashU knew that they had to go ahead and do things differently from then on if the neighborhood was really going to truly come back. And it wasn't going to continue to be the cycle of poverty that was happening there. So the later years, WashU ended up going ahead and putting money into safety and security. They still do about $200,000 a year of additional police patrols in the neighborhood. So committees for all of the different neighborhood needs and that. Infrastructure. WashU was the matching entity for a $3.2 million infrastructure upgrade on Manchester Avenue. New zoning codes and plans for the neighborhood. Special events. This is something that we headed up there. Grove Fest, that has 25,000 people that come to it now. Beer festivals and that. Recruiting developers, businesses, and residents. Having a place that anybody that was looking to invest in the neighborhood, we could really hold their hand and tell them, yeah, there's not, maybe this or that is not on the market, but we know this owner would sell for this amount, or you can contact this owner through that, just helping them land and kind of figure out if they wanted to invest in the neighborhood, how to do that. We established a special taxing district in the Grove. which now all of the property owners in the Grove tax themselves. So about $100,000 a year comes from that. And then there's a 1% sales tax that raises about $400,000 a year from all of the uses in the Grove. There's a business association that SLUH sits on. And we started to create kind of a unique identity for the area. We said, how do we go ahead and make this different from other city neighborhoods? And so we said, well, what can we do that's affordable in that? Let's start putting, doing some art. And so we actually have in the Grove the most paint by number murals of anywhere in the world. So we have over 30 paint by number murals. And this is pretty unique because each one of these paint by number murals, thousands of people actually come and paint these now. We do one at Grove Fest each year, and they have never had any graffiti, never any damage on, because the community is really buys into the murals and are proud of them, and they feel like they're part of that process. I was the project manager for the Grove signs, and we did the Grove signs in 2008 and then again in 2009, right in the heart of the recession. Riverfront Times actually did a story and said, look what the Grove is doing. They're putting lipstick on a pig. And we wanted to go ahead and do that, to go ahead and say, yes, we know the recession is happening, but once the recession lifts, we want everybody to know that the Grove is here to stay, the Grove is for real. And that definitely happened in 2012, 2013. Investment started pouring into the communities. So here again is what I saw coming in 2002. The first month that I was on the job, one of the teens in our program was killed in a drive-by shooting incident. 2 dead bodies were found in abandoned buildings. It was drug dealing happening everywhere. Really bad place, a neighborhood of last resort. You did not want to live here. You did not want to be here. You could go ahead and get homes here for $5,000 to $10,000. Just lack of investment there to what you have today. So now those 100 parcels that only had 6 storefronts, there are 78 storefronts there today. Grove Fest happens the first Saturday of October each year. There's 25,000 people that come to that. There's thriving businesses. We are getting now legitimate second, third owned businesses that are looking to come here. We're getting national retailers that are looking to come here. Any vacant pieces of land, this is vacant pieces of land now that you can just build a house on, are going for $50,000, $60,000 just for the land itself. So this is a real success story for St. Louis. So from there, so in March 2017, St. Louis University helped them establish their Community Development Corporation. So this is the first time that St. Louis University has established a Community Development Corporation for the surrounding their area there. So it's a very exciting venture. Father Biondi did amazing things for the campus. Now this is the first time really looking for what can be invested around the campus and trying to bring investment and amenities and services to the area. So this is again just off the ground in March 2017. This area here, this map represents 400 acres around SLUH's North Campus up top and then the medical campus down below. So it's Laclede Avenue to the north all the way to Highway 44 to the south, Compton to the east, and then Vandeventer to the west, if you can imagine where that is. And so the 400 acres, we have the development authority over anything that happens there. So whether it's SLUH-owned property or private-owned property, this redevelopment corporation has the authority of what happens. So here is the Foundry development. So this is right at Vandeventer and Forest Park. So taking an old Federal Mogul Foundry complex and turning it into this 10-screen movie theater. Punch Bowl is an arcade and bowling alley, new grocery store, food hall, and then the office towers right across from IKEA there. And then right across from the Foundry is a new hotel that's being developed, which will start in April. So it's Midas Hospitality that's doing an Element by Weston. Here is the Armory Complex. So the Armory Complex is The oldest, the largest armory in the country. It's 250,000 square feet, built in 1938. SLUH practiced here. I don't know if anybody practiced here, football, baseball back in the day. And this is what they're looking to turn it into. Up to 500 employees that will work out of here. And then this is the project to the east of Grand here, right off Shoto, is the new Steel Coat Lofts building. So this is another project that's been vacant for 20 years. And then this is, SLUH owns 14 acres at Grand and Shoto. You may have remembered that this was the second option for the MLS stadium. And so what we're working here is to try to get a mixed-use retail development here at the corner that would have ground floor retail, residential, hotel along to go with it. And then all this area here, we're gonna, on Thursday of this week actually, we're gonna be coming out with an email and it's gonna be publicized. We're looking for a new name for this area in between the two campuses. So the marketing and communications department worked with me at SLUH, and we have these 15 designation names here that you can't see too well, but we're going to ask the community to go ahead and vote on one of these names here for the area. And then we'll do similar marketing and branding efforts that we did in the Grove. So then just end here with, again, here is Dr. Ann Meese, and really looking at, as you move forward here, in my opinion, the city of St. Louis is in need of investment, not just around the central corridor and that major areas in North St. Louis and South St. Louis are in need of that. Looking at how can we continue to do that? How can we continue to be men for others? How can we volunteer for different programs and initiatives, or if we do have some funding to be able to give it to that. When you look around the country, the areas that are the most successful around cities are where long-time institutions such as schools, hospitals, zoos and museum districts, they're the ones that are actually staying where they have been for 100+ years and investing around it. And so SLUH, it's so important that are still here today and continues to invest in that area. So thank you for all that you do. Yes. Okay.
What is your relationship?
Cortex, are you talking about? So Cortex, if you don't know about it, it's just east of WashU Medical Center's campus, in between SLUH and WashU Medical Center's campus, where IKEA and that has been developed. So close relationship. We have a similar, they have a development authority over their area, and we have the same rights over our area. SLUH, SSM, WashU, the Botanical Garden, BJC all sit on Cortex's board. It's very important for jobs and that is successful. We are working now that the hope is that that area will be filled up in the next 5 years, that there won't be any new places to develop there, and it's just going to spread out from there. And so any group that isn't a biotech job, then that wants to be next to Cortex, we're helping them find locations around it. Yes. Correct. So, yes. Really good. Yes. So he's asking about the neighborhood, Forest Park Southeast, where the Grove is, was a really bad neighborhood. 70s, 80s, 90s was really bad. It's doing amazing. You go over there, it's $400,000 plus homes that are being built. The area, really nice restaurants. Urban Chestnut Beer Hall is over there, and that now it's extremely successful. It's a complete 180. So good question. He's asking if it's been private investment or public, WashU investment. WashU strategically bought out early on slum landlords. So they bought about 120 different properties over there from slum landlords that were just bad. So the community went to WashU, the alderman went to WashU and said, can you buy these people out? And WashU bought them out and then put in the covenants that you can't come back in and buy, in the neighborhood once we buy you out. But it was all of that was really just to stabilize things. And then all of those different initiatives that I just talked about, those were all like a $70,000 Grove sign attracted hundreds of thousands of dollars because of it. So everything that we were doing was stabilizing it just so folks could go ahead and return and get in and make it with their investments there, that their investments would be profitable there in the community. So lots of work to get it. So WashU, not those 120 those were the worst of the worst. Those are just getting developed right now. So the ones you're talking about on Swan, Vista, and those are the new homes. And then there's some affordable units in there. Those are just getting off the ground right now. So WashU had to go ahead and, demolish those, board those up, and wait for everything else to get developed. And then now it's finally a time that the market has made it feasible. I saw him over here at the plaid shirt. Yeah. Yes, she is very supportive of these efforts. It's a Bill Keeling who's here, the new guy. He worked in Vince Shamel's office and knows this stuff better than I do. But so he'll be the next guest speaker. But she has tons of just folks that are coming after her about incentives and that's happening. These projects are not easy to do without incentives. You're coming in to these communities, you got sewer issues, you got lead, you're not building on cornfields here. You're coming in, you have major issues, and then the city has no money to help you out with public infrastructure. So we go ahead and we have somebody that comes in and does a $10 million development, and they say, okay, great, we just did that. City, when are you gonna fix our alleys? When are you gonna fix our sidewalks? And the city has no money to do it. So it's back on the developers to go ahead and do all that. So yes, she is, but she's getting a lot of scrutiny that puts her in, kind of a bind on this stuff right now. He's asking about St. Louis City and County joining together. It's needed. I mean, people in the room may not want to hear that, but I mean, for the future of St. Louis, we need to figure this out. We need to come together again. The city is not going to survive if it's just on its own here. And, there's a lot of waste that's happening all over the region. So in my opinion, it's going to be a slow process, but let's continue to work on things, strategically and take our time with it if that's what needs to happen. But we're going to need to come together at some point.
Any viable plans for the
Great. Definitely agree. So he's asking about the properties that are boarded up on Kings Highway. It's a little sensitive, but Drury Hotel owns those properties, and they've owned them now since 2013. MoDOT is finally has for sale the land at Kings Highway and 40. Drury Hotel originally wanted to put a hotel there about 7 or 8 years ago, and then they said that they didn't need to. They were kind of concentrating on their Brentwood Hotel and that. It depends now. Drury is waiting to see, I think, who buys that property at Kings Highway and 40. Those properties are not ever going to be rehabbed, which is a good thing. They're going to be torn down, and they would be used as an access road if somebody did do a hotel and needs to have access from Kings Highway there. But now we actually have condo groups and home builders that want to possibly put homes there because homes are doing so well in the neighborhood, want to put homes there, and they don't need that Kings Highway access anymore. They would come from Shoto, from the eastern end. So Drury's in a little bit of a bind if they don't get that property, and whoever buys that property doesn't need that. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Brooks. That was a terrific presentation for an area that seems like, I don't know, probably most of us, our entire life, that has been sort of, it's desolate. And, you know, with St. Louis University and St. Louis University Law School and SLUH High, and been around that whole area for so long. And it's always been, it's gotten run down. It's so nice to see all the development taking place. And I can't wait to see the Foundry when that kicks off. All right. February Frenzy. So we're going to talk about February Frenzy. We're back to, February Frenzy is was a three-day campaign in February for the classes of 1990 to 2011, conducted entirely via social media and email. So there were no phone-a-thon, right, Joe? Just email and social media. It's the 4th annual, and it features competitions between classes. 597 donors in 3 days, and 68 young alumni made their first ever gift to SLUH as alumni. So that's pretty impressive. So how about a round of applause for the young alumni doing that? And the class of 90 was the overall winner with 37.75% participation. Class of 07 had the most total gifts of 51, and the class of 10 had, it says 16 new donors, Joe, but I've been told by somebody who I think who knows, my son, that there was more than 16. So I don't know, maybe not. He says 30 something, and Kevin McAuliffe can correct me. But anyway, class of 10 had a lot of new donors. And that's great because it's just so important to get the young alumni involved and get them to start thinking about donating to St. Louis U High. Before they have a lot of other competing claims on their disposable income. So great results from February Frenzy. And thank you for the reps in this room and on this board from those classes, because they really spearheaded that effort. And it was just turned out to be terrific with terrific results. And these are the Frenzy captains. You can see small print, but it's the people on this board from those years who were the captains. Overall alumni giving to date. As of February 26th, 25.5% of alumni have made a gift or a pledge this fiscal year. It's a big increase from last year, which was about 3% higher than last year. Our goal is 30% for the year, compared to 28% from last year. I think we're on track to hit 30%, which would be great. I think we should be aiming higher, I think, but we're on track for 30%, assuming all the pledges that are made are paid. This is such a huge year for the school, the 2018, 18, and all that. But I think we're on track to make 30%, but no reason why we can't be 31 or 32. Notable classes, this just gives you a list of the classes with the greatest participation. I'm sure there are people from class of 62 here. I'm not sure who they are, but they're all impressive. But class of 62 at 50% is really, really impressive. So congratulations to all those top 10 classes. Cash-Ba update. Sean Annual is going to come up and talk about Cash-Ba. Cash-Ba is a really big shoe this year, so he's going to tell you all about it.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to ask for your help with Cash-Ba, and then right after me, Dick Meehan is going to come and ask for your help with the bicentennial. So let me back up and just say a word about April and the insanity that it represents for us. You know, we're going to have, for Cash-Ba, it'll be a bicentennial ball, and then we're going to have this bicentennial celebration. And it's really curious to plan for these moments of exuberance in the middle of Lent. Right? Here we're meditating on fasting and prayer and almsgiving, and then we've got these extravagant celebrations that we're getting ready to roll out. But it brings into relief, I think, what it is that we're celebrating. And thanks be to God that falls on Easter. But we're looking at a legacy, generations of investment in the city. Back to what Brooks was talking about, there might not be a more significant, a more long-standing, a more powerful instrument of social mobility than St. Louis U High in this region. For many of us in this room, we are here where we are today because this school invested in us. More than 400 young men at our school today are receiving financial aid. And the most significant way that we fund that is with CashBah. So we need your help. The night of CashBah, we have $1 million challenge on the table. So we have people working very, very hard to meet this $1 million challenge from our alum, Tom Schilly. And what happens that night is going to be really significant. But it's going to be a packed house. We expect a sellout. And we need your hands. You as ambassadors in our community, as alumni board members, we need your help. We need to be shoulder to shoulder with you that night, making that event successful. So please consider the possibility of working with us on April 7th. You should have in your inbox right now a registration form to sign up to help us with a wait staff that night. And there's also forms on your table. If you'd prefer to fill out a paper form, thank you for considering this act of service. It's a powerful sign when our current families, when our alumni see our alumni board working closely with us to make these celebrations happen. So thank you very much.
Okay, next we're going to talk about the bicentennial celebration, which is looming right after CashBah. Dick Meehan, a board member, is going to come up and talk to you about that and talk to you about volunteering for that, because we're going to need even more help with that 2 weeks after CashBah.
This is about 2 minutes. Our bicentennial is coming up, and it's coming up on Saturday, April 21st. The 7th will be CashBah, and then just 2 weeks later, which is 7 weeks and 4 days from now. So we're going to celebrate a big birthday party, but we can't do it by ourselves. And we've got a lot of students who are going to participate in the various clubs or teams, and they're going to be involved. But because we've got so many alumni, we're going to ask if we can have volunteers from this group who can give us some time. We're not sure how many people are going to be there. We've been told, I've been at some of the pre-meetings, because this is still in a state of flux. They're trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do. But we've been told that at a Jesuit high school in San Francisco, they had 7,000 people. So I've been told to tell you, maybe we'll have 5,000. We're not sure. We're trying to send out email blasts saying, can you RSVP, just to let us know so we have an idea. And we're trying to guess right now how many people will show to this. And we're trying to make it a class event, so the more volunteers we have, the better. There's a lot that's going to be going on. It's not like an all-day thing. It's not like going to 13 Carnival that used to be out at WashU. I don't know if they still have it, but that's an all-weekend thing that goes on. This is going to be something basically where there's mass outside. It's probably going to be right out here. We're going to have a stage set up, and it'll go out toward the field. We're going to have chairs, and then I think we're going to have the ideas to have blankets and have people bring blankets and maybe sit out on the lawn as the crowd gets bigger. But the mass is going to take place about 4 o'clock. And I think we've got some Jesuit personalities who are going to be there. And we've also invited the mayor of the city to be there at that time. And so mass, I think 4 o'clock starting time. It'll go 4 o'clock till maybe 5:30, 5:45 or something. And then roughly what we do, or what the people do who show up, is between 6 and 8:15. And that's when there will be booths or there's going to be free food and free beer, I think, out here. I think they're still working that out, but it's going to be an idea. It's not going to be like a carnival where we want everybody in the city to show. We're trying to get people to show up who've got some connection to St. Louis U High, who either went here, had relatives that went here, had kids who went here, but people who want to see how the school is doing and to help celebrate the birthday. And so that goes from 6 till 8:15 at night. And you'll be able to come into school, and they're going to have student ambassadors with signs and telling you, go here, go there. They'll also have an information booth because people always ask questions when you get a big crowd like this. And around 8:15 at night, from the roof of this building, they're going to shoot fireworks off. So that's going to kind of cap off the event that day. My dad used to always say the phrase, many hands make light work. And we need help on that day. It's a one-day thing for our people to set up and take down. And that'll be on the 21st of April. It'll start 9 till 12 a.m. We're asking for people to help set up, to help do whatever it is that Sean and Ben Dumont and the others in the advancement office help figure out. We have to be set up, whether it's booths or chairs or whatever. But by doing that, our idea is we'd be finished setting up between 9 and 12 a.m. Excuse me. The plan is to pray for good weather. And we have parking at the Science Center lot down here. And then there will be parking over at the Forest Park Community College with shuttle buses that will take people on a continuous basis to or from the shuttle parking at Forest Park. Our idea is also that it'll be on the south side of campus. It's not going to be up by the football field or on that side of campus that most of us are used to, but it'll be back here where the street is and where the baseball stadium is and where the field is. That's going to be, I guess, the focus of this place, provided it's nice weather. We need help during the event, and we'll be able to help assign people if they want to help during the event, but there are going to be a lot of students doing things during the event as well. And then Tony Conroy is helping to run the cleanup afterwards when it ends, I guess before 9 o'clock roughly. And he's trying to get the Fathers Club from the school involved. So the big question is for us, what if it rains? Well, this event will still take place. And it'll be shifting inside, and we're going to have to figure the effective use of space. But I think the crazy thing is Dave Murray of Channel 2 has said he expects April to be a rainier month than usual with 5 or 6 big events. And I'm thinking rain events or events like ours. So basically what we're asking you to do is volunteer to help. And you can do it basically one or two ways. So on your tables, you'll see sheets where you can sign in. Give us your name, give us some information on how to get a hold of you, or you can go online, because I think Sean's sending out an email blast to people and saying you can sign up online to volunteer to help. But we can't just depend on the students. We're trying to get as many people as possible so that we don't have one person doing all the work. We can spread it out. So that's basically it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Dick. I want to just reinforce how important this event is, especially since I signed up to head the cleanup and trash detail. The more volunteers, as Dick's father said, many hands light work. It's just, we need, I don't know, what if 8,000 people show up? How much trash is that? That's a lot of trash. So we need all the help we can get, and really appreciate everybody volunteering. If you're going to be here anyway, spend an hour just helping out. All right. Next up, we're going to hear from Melissa Jones, who is the Vice President for Institutional Advancement here. She's going to tell us all about what's going on at the SLUH. Thanks, Melissa.
All right, thank you, Tony. So I'm going to take about 10 minutes of your time, and we'll wrap up then. Thanks so much for being here. Normally you'd hear from Dave Laughlin, and Dave's out of town, so he sends his greetings and his regrets. But of course, he's with us through the end of June, so you'll get to see him at Cashpaw and at the bicentennial event. And he'll handle graduation in May and be wrapping things up and leaving, and I'll be I'll be in tears, but everything will be fine, I'm sure. We all will be. Yes, Dan. Just to give you, again, a brief update of things that are going on here at school. So we just wrapped up, the Dolphin players performed West Side Story. Michael Sunjan just gave me his critique and that it was awesome. It was amazing. Thank you, Michael. It was a wonderful production. I'll pass that along to Catherine Whitaker. The crew performed Romeo and Juliet in the fall and then West Side Story this spring. So, of course, those two stories are related, and I understand the first time the Dolphin players have ever performed those two. Now, whether that's in our 200 years ever, not sure, but at least in recent history. So as far as an update on sports, our winter sports teams are doing very well. Of note, our hockey team flew past Chaminade 10-0 in game 1. And so game 2 is this Saturday, March the 3rd at 6:15 p.m. at the St. Peter's Recplex. So we hope to see you there. Basketball, I don't know if anybody's following that right now, but they played at 5:30 p.m. So they're probably finishing up right about now if anybody wants to check Twitter and see what the score is. But they played against Ladue Hortons, of course, Ladue Horton Watkins. And a victory would put them into Friday's district final, likely versus Chaminade. Racquetball earned a second place finish at the state tournament last weekend, and they head to Portland tomorrow for the national tournament from Thursday through Sunday. All 10 spring sports are now active. Rugby has already begun contests. Lacrosse begins this weekend, and others will follow with contests beginning during or shortly after spring break. Bob O'Connell, SLUH's social studies teacher who has coached high school soccer for the past 15 years, we just publicly announced yesterday, has been named SLUH's new varsity head coach for soccer. He replaces Charlie Martell, class of 73, who will remain as a theology teacher at SLUH High. And he, as you know, recently retired from a 25-year career as head coach. He put together a 514 win, 161 loss, 63 tie record. That's pretty phenomenal. Yes. And of course, we have gratitude to Charlie Wright for his commitment serving our student athletes and their total formation. Now, Bob assumes his new role heading into the 2018 fall season. In Global Ed, we've expanded our Arabic program to include Arabic 1 and 2, and that brings our foreign language offerings to 7 languages: French, Spanish language, Latin, Greek, Chinese, Russian, and Arabic. In January, we welcomed 8 exchange students from the Nanjing Foreign Language School, which is a top school in China. We have 6 boys and 2 girls. One of the girls wrote about her first week. It was very, very sweet, and I thought, my goodness, things are very similar when it comes to teenagers and around the world. So she wrote, "School began on January 3rd. I felt excited but nervous as well. SLUH looks very different from my school in Nanjing, and since I am one of the only 2 girls here this semester, my nervousness grew even stronger. But surprisingly, everything worked well and smoothly for the first week. The teachers are enthusiastic and are always willing to help, and most of the boys here are nice." Typical. They greeted me warmly, and some even started conversations with me. All those helped me relax and calm down. So in addition to providing service support at many organizations in the area through Freshman Service Project and Community Service Project, this school year, the Junior Bills led drives to support worthwhile causes, such as the hurricane relief efforts in Houston and Puerto Rico. We just had Mission Week that supported Puerto Rico as well. Drive for the homeless, Adopt a Family for needy families during the holidays. Seniors were on project in January at 80 sites across the region and in the countries of Mexico, Puerto Rico, Russia, and we even had one student who traveled to Zambia and spent his January there. It's quite a story. Look it up in Prep News if you have not read his story. Emmanuel Parker spent the month of January in Zambia. Incredible story. Clavius project continues to expand, serving 32 middle schools, reaching about 600 students. We had over 30 junior bills who are participating in the Clavius project. If you're not familiar, we've talked about it before here at the Alumni Board, but it's a project that's bringing STEM activities, robotics, programming, coding to under-resourced, underserved middle schools here in the city of St. Louis and surrounding area. The third annual Clavius Jamboree was held Saturday, January 20th. Mr. McTeague was here earlier. Tom, I'm not seeing you now, maybe you had to leave, but Tom was also here representing SLUH High and working with the students, and several other alumni were there mentoring and helping as well. And we hosted over 300 middle schoolers from 27 schools that day in January on the 20th in the field house. So to close, I wanted to talk a little bit about the past few weeks. You know, the month of February is Black History Month, and here at SLUH High, that's no different, and that we celebrated and kicked off our month-long celebration with an amazing, just awesome assembly. And it featured one of your alumni brothers, Dr. Rollo Dilworth. He's class of 1987. Dr. Dilworth is chair of music education and music therapy and professor of choral music education at Boyer College of Music and Dance at Temple University. So Dr. Dilworth spoke about his experience here at SLUH High, about his hopes and dreams for his younger brothers here at SLUH. It was a very amazing, you know, just a great talk that the boys, I think, really related to well and were very receptive of. The chorus performed Jonah, one of his many works. He has more than 150 choral compositions and arrangements published. And he was featured in our most recent edition of St. Louis U High, SLUH magazine. So if you have not had a chance to read that, should have hit your mailboxes in the last couple of weeks, thanks to Ben Dumont and his work as our Director of Communications. Ben, thank you for that. Dr. Dilworth is featured in there, as are many other alumni and many students and their activities. So please check that out. But Black History Month here has been just a really great opportunity for the young men to hear from each other. And as part of that, Frank Kovarik, who is also an alum and an English teacher and our Director of Equity and Inclusion, put together what he calls Voices of SLUH essays among our students. So we read as a school community 3 days a week. We were sent an essay from a young man talking about his experience, whether he was an African-American student or a Caucasian student, or we had an essay from a student who was Latino and his experience as trying to fit in between these two worlds and what that's been like for him. So I wanted to close with part of one student's reflection, just reading a little bit of that, and then reading to you another student's reflection. So in one of the Voices of SLUH essay, senior Nick Patriti reflected on what whiteness has meant in his life. For Nick, growing up in a virtually all-white environment has brought him priceless advantages. Nick concluded his essay with these reflections. Not all white people have these advantages. Not all Black people have these disadvantages, but the distribution of these advantages and disadvantages is strongly associated with race for reasons that are both historical and ongoing. When I think about what it means to be white, I no longer feel guilty, but I can certainly say I am now very aware of how lucky I am. It's as if my life was paved for success from the start, and it bothers me that a main reason for that is that I got lucky. Now, in the essay I'm going to read to you now, this is from a young man named Jared. He's one of Nick's classmates, so he is also is a senior. And it reflects on a contrasting set of life experiences. Jared comes from a virtually all-Black environment, and his family, neighborhood, and early educational situations are starkly different from Nick's. Nick counted himself lucky for the ways his life was paved for success from the start. In the vast scheme of things, Jared really has been lucky too, in that he has had family members and other mentors who have helped him, and he has attended SLUH, where his hard work has earned him a college scholarship. So here is the essay from Jared, again, who is a senior. Jared lives in the city, so I appreciate what Brooks was saying earlier. and what Sean had to say about this community, and that, and I've shared it before publicly, but I don't recall I've shared it with you all, just that this is for me, this community seems to be a microcosm of what's going on in our city. And we're bringing young men together from over 90 zip codes and 150 feeder schools. So we really are bringing and experiencing a lot of what's happening in the city here within our walls. And it's a great place for them to experience it. It's a safe place, and we're teaching civil discourse. And it reminds me of the scripture verse, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Sometimes that can be painful, but they're learning, and they have the opportunity to interact and talk with one another, and learn from each other's experiences. So here is Jared's story. The colored me is a complex young man who has faced many challenges in life and has had to withstand them and come out better from it. The colored me is a boy who has not grown up in the best of neighborhoods, has not had the best of role models, didn't attend the best schools, lost his father, and still has had a great life. I have lived in Riverview my entire life. I've watched my neighbors move in and out, good neighbors, Ms. Sophie, who always made me feel comfortable and provided shelter when I was locked out, and bad, the neighbors who constantly had illegal activities going on. We also had a fight with them. I've watched my neighborhood change from not very dangerous or active to pretty dangerous and lots of things going on. When I was younger, I never heard gunshots at night or had to watch my surroundings while walking home from school at 3 p.m., though my house was broken into 4 times in the span of 2 years. Those times made me feel uncomfortable, to say the least, but I was never actually scared. For some reason, I felt like everything was still okay, perhaps because my mom had insurance for these instances, and so most of the stolen items were replaced. I still was always safe at home and never felt unprotected. But now I feel a sense of uneasiness at home, perhaps because of the gunshots I hear ringing not even a full block away from my house. Maybe because of the lady down the street who was killed after being hit by a stray bullet while she was sleeping. Or lastly, because a guy whom I knew very well and interacted with often was shot and killed only 3 houses from mine. These are things that have progressively gotten worse in my neighborhood and made my community unsafe. Though I love my community, I am always on alert and looking out for myself because I know that anything can happen. I have some pretty good role models, though, like Mr. Cruz, Coach Jones, Mr. Kovarik, Mr. Schuler, Coach Claggett, and my Uncle Kenneth. These are people who have shown me how a man is supposed to conduct himself and how to try to create change for social justice and other things that I feel are not correct. These men are in positions to affect younger people who are struggling and help them, and I think they do a pretty good job of helping. These men have also understood the power of education and have attended college and pursued a degree or more. These are mostly men whom I look to as good family men with values and a purpose. But many of the men in my life before me, older cousins and uncles, aren't these things. Only one man in my family attended college, and he didn't even make it to the end of his first semester. Not all the men in my family are bad. They grew up during a time where systemic racism limited their opportunities to succeed and prosper, and it doomed them. There are a few men in my family, like my Uncle Tony, the one who attended college, and my Uncle Connie, who work a decent job and have sustained the same job for 15 plus years. They have provided opportunities for their children to do what they couldn't and ultimately have lived a happy life. But all the other men in my family are either criminals who do drugs or dead. There are only 2 men whom I am consistently around who live comfortably. The other 5 or 6 who are around either still live with their parents and have never had an actual job or are in jail. My family's men have had a bad pass, but me and the other young men in my family are trying to break the cycle, even though there are only 3 of us left who have a clean criminal record. The past generation of men in my family have not set a good precedent to follow, but I hope to be the one who changes the standard. I hope to overcome these odds and achieve my goals in life, and I don't plan on letting anything get in the way of that. I attended Glasgow Elementary School in the Riverview School District, which is unaccredited. This was a school where I found effortless success in the classroom, and I was well known throughout the student body. This led to me getting in trouble a lot, constantly spending time in the principal's office or outside the classroom. I was suspended 4 times in elementary school, 3 times for fighting, and 1 time for insubordination. The atmosphere at Glasgow was one of constant distractions and challenges. There would be talking while the teacher was trying to teach, fighting in the hallways and bathrooms, kids cursing out teachers and staff members, and one time 2 staff members fought each other. With that being said, one could imagine how hard it was to grow as a student at this school and why children fall behind grade levels at schools like these. These Black children are not given the same resources and opportunities that their white counterparts are given, and it has a clear effect on them, which in time leads to students dropping out of high school, not going to college, and not having as good of lives as white students of the same age. Lack of resources and opportunities is a major factor in communities like mine and in my school life in general. This is what I had to deal with in elementary and middle school, which ultimately affects me in a place like St. Louis University High. I may not have been given the same tools to succeed at a place like SLUH as some of the wealthier white guys around me were, which I won't ponder over. I must overcome these odds like other Blacks have since the beginning of time. I am a young man who lost his father to violence at the age of 14. 14 years may seem like a nice amount of time to be with someone, but as you get farther and farther along in life, you start to lose memories you had with them. The fact that it is my father whom I'm starting to forget about makes it worse to me. I don't want to forget about my father, and I think of him every day, but each day he fades a little more. With everything going on in my life, I start to forget the things I once loved about my dad. But I remember the late nights we spent up playing the game, the long car rides we took together to my football games, and the practical jokes he would play on me at home. These are things that make me smile, but also things that bring me down during the day. Things that caused me to become frustrated that he had to leave so early and forced me to ask questions about life. Questions like, what did I do to deserve this? Why did this happen? Or how do I get past this tragedy and grow from this? I face these questions a lot and spend lots of time focusing on different ways to answer this question. But I know that my father is still with me in everything that I do. And I always keep my head up with a smile to stay strong for him. With all these different factors in my life that could have brought me down, I am still standing strong and happy. I try to stay in a positive light and be the life of events. Well, I really don't try. That's just me. I'm a happy person who loves life and being happy. I believe that I'm a strong young man who has withstood the tests of life so far and has remained strong-willed and determined. I hope to do something special someday to change the world, to be a man for others, though I'm not sure what it will be. I am positive that I will help someone with my story and show them that you can defy the odds and be someone, that we don't have to fall victim to circumstance. I hope to never become a victim of circumstance. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but if you have any questions about the school or about what we've learned this month at Black History Month, I'm happy to answer. So, okay. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Melissa. You know, the school update section of this meeting is always makes me feel great because it shows everything it's a reminder of everything great that's going on here, and whether it's sports scores or SAT or ACT averages and things like that, which are all great things. It's always impressive, but I think tonight was particularly impressive because it shows that the reason most of us, I think all of us, love the school so much and support it so much is the school changes everybody's lives like one kid at a time. And It's just incredible to hear these stories, and that is still happening here. I mean, it happened when I was a kid. It's happened when my son was here, and it's obviously still happening, and it seems like it gets better and better at doing it every year. So thank you for everything you do, Melissa. All right. So as you know, we do have a couple of upcoming events. Cashba in roughly 4 weeks. And that will sell out. If you're interested in attending and paying to attend, that will sell out fast, I think. So I would encourage you to buy your tickets early. We need volunteers for that. And of course, 2 weeks later, the SLUH Bicentennial Celebration, which is going to be a major event. So sign up for cleanup if you are on the fence. Next dinner, our next meeting, our final dinner of the year is Tuesday, May 22nd. Appreciation dinner. And then after school lets out, we have the Father Hagen Alumni Golf Tournament in Forest Park. I think it's in Forest Park, right, Joe? Yeah, Forest Park, Friday, June 22nd. So we're coming into a really, really important time for our work supporting the school and for the school itself. So see you all on May 22nd.